Oh, so it started? Okay. Oh, it started. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, we're here for the field session, now postponed a few times, and of course, so we're trying to keep the cool and moving. Everybody, if you haven't gotten the map, you should get the folks in the lot get one. Okay, very good.
I got it.
These are going to be some of the areas that we've identified and want to get the feedback from all of you. And so we're going to go around with the introductions to start off. Larry Lloyd, Berks Nature.
Hi, I'm Zola Russell. I'm with Floura Teeter Landscape Architects.
Lucy Cairns on the commission.
Jean Seelig on the commission.
Jen Reimer, chair of the commission.
Melissa Miller, borough secretary. Jenna Barnett, borough council. Michelle Bear, borough manager.
Jim Babb, Public Works.
Leister, Berks Nature.
Okay, our proposed route, if people have stuff, they'll have to go. I know Solon, what do you have, 10:30 or something? So the proposed route is to head up through here and then head up across the bridge to the forest and then wrap around to the Cambridge Avenue and back to the Park Barn and then back here. So we'll see how quickly we go. And so we can start right here. I guess we can bring up one of the issues
Zach,
was...
before we start,
Okay.
I gotta be official. Is there any public comment?
Oh,
Hey. Hearing none? Cool.
okay.
Thanks, Zach.
So there's going to be some overarching general themes, and then we're going to talk about some particulars as we go. One of the things that came up in one of the meetings was the parking. So on here, the parking areas are listed, and then of course we're at number 1. And so this area cannot be expanded for additional parking. I don't know if all of you looked at the survey results, but there really wasn't hardly any comments in there about the need for additional parking for the park. So, any comments about parking? Yeah, the need for additional parking. I know it came up in one of the previous meetings.
Well, but you also have so many of the people say they walk over here.
Yeah.
So they would not see the need for additional parking. In my experience in the parklands, people aren't walking over here, so I don't know where that group came from. But I don't think that's accurate.
Well, it's common for people to park like you see that white car right there. Now that's happening now even when there's room in the parking lot because they think they're going to get shade. But often there's a row of cars along the street which make it a little more difficult to exit the parking lot safely here. And over at the Highlands at number 7, during peak times, people are parking on the grass, multiple cars.
Okay.
Well, there's even a woman that has no kids who's parking on the grass, I think for shade. Because when I get there at 6:30 in the morning, the lot's not full, but that's where she parks her car.
Okay,
Great.
then we're going to go with the survey is not fully accurate, and there's still some desire from that. We'll talk about it when we get over to Cambridge Avenue. Nick, please say you're going to join us.
Yes, for at least a little while.
Okay, could you say your name for the purpose of the meeting?
Nick Johnson, Johnson Environmental Engineering. I am the Wyomissing Creek Watershed Coalition's engineer. Met with Larry and Jim from the borough and a couple other folks and looked at how some of our missions, which is an 8-member multi-municipal group working on stormwater compliance, might be able to intersect a little bit with some of the upgrades being done in the park. So,
Very good.
if I can weigh in, I will.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'll sit quietly.
No, thank you for coming, and we invited Nick previously to a meeting specifically for that, because there are things within the park that we can do, and we could start right with here. We could walk down a little bit, but tremendous amount of flood water and stormwater comes into this area.
Before we leave the parking lot, I'd like to talk about the adequacy or inadequacy of trash. This is a very heavily used parking lot. It is not unusual for the trash to overflow over the weekend. It's seasonal. Part of that, I think, is because people picnic here. But this is one of the parking lots which only has one trash can, in contrast to down at the Stonehouse where there is 2 or 3. And I think the adequacy of the trash needs to be
Okay,
considered.
that was also mentioned in the survey, so that one we will check is accurate. Why don't we get away from the road and get up here and find a shady
I was
spot where
about
we
to
can
say
talk
that
about
because it's noise.
the
Is it
stormwater.
trash or trash and recycling? Do you guys recycle? Pick up
Yeah.
recycling?
Yeah, but people, and there are slots for both recycling and trash, and people put trash and recycling, which contaminates the recycling, so it all becomes trash.
And then the dog waste is mixed in there too?
Well,
I mean,
Our
the-
dog waste station.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, as part of the overall trash.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, hopefully it's
Let's,
picking it up.
let's find a shady spot.
I guess is the part that was the bias of the survey as to mostly residents doing the survey. Well, they're gathering them up at like some of the events, Happy Hollow, like Earth Day, and a lot of them are heavily populated by residents. And then if it's getting sent via email, it's going to the residents. So your non-residents aren't accessing the survey as much as the residents.
But even my 6:30 group is mainly residents, and
It's a nice
we all
shady
drive.
spot.
And they all drive.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Wait for everybody to
Fill
get
out the survey.
Go behind you.
Yeah. Because they say you can track us.
Okay, at this location, we have some numbers, of course, on here. 4 and 2 and 3, that's the stormwater. So we'll take them one at a time. The stream, of course, is right here. This is question on for you guys. Is this a main service route for you guys? I bring this up because for most streams, riparian buffers should be 35 feet for any action, and of course some of this gravel ends up over there into the creek, and so we'll get to the stormwater part, which could help to alleviate that. But if we're talking about potential trail rerouting, that would be a prime issue. Is this essential to your movement of equipment and everything?
Yeah, right now this is our access to get up here. Like, that's what they're doing on the other side here now. There's some big trees down here, but we took them out that way rather than disturb as much on the trail.
I see. So mostly for maintenance, and of course you couldn't get to this area if you were only using over there. So this is important to know, but there might be some suggestions that we end up with for moving the trail in some areas, still maintaining your, and then there's some talk of boardwalks, because really this is your stormwater. There's your dam up there, the parking lot. The idea would, it already is capturing stormwater there, but some of it is coming over. There's even pipes that bring it over to the creek from out there. So in talking with Nick, this was an area that we had identified where with some activity, grading or some practices, more of the stormwater could end up coming down through here.
It could be retained here, so we could grade it so there are shallow basins so that when it's wet, it doesn't run off.
It's
just
generally not a flood-prone area, but if we could make it a flood-prone area, it's a good spot.
So that was
Yes.
kind of the idea between putting a boardwalk. I mean, first there's the grade from the parking lot. We could just come out and it would be more accessible, sort of wander through here on a boardwalk, and then it can be wet when it's wet, dry when it's dry, and then reconnecting roughly in this area.
The wettest part is always at the base of the parking lot.
Well,
Right.
that's basically your stormwater retention area, and we want to get actually more there instead of having this gravel move over and the flood water that jumps out of the bend up there. So any of this, of course, the plan will have general recommendations, but you would have to be hiring your own engineer to come up with specific things. Nick, we already had some good ideas about it, but at the very least there's going to be the need for a boardwalk to get you out. Right now, another would be to get you over to that trail, the old Wyomissing Road, and to get there from the parking lot in times of wet, you can't get there because that's the big stormwater basin area. So that covers that one, and then the trail rerouting, we hope you'll be open to some of it. Up here's a spot, but again, these are going to be suggestions for you guys, then you prioritize and decide what's possible with grants or what you can do or not do. But we're hearing that this road is essential for your
Well,
maintenance.
you need a road, you don't
Yeah,
need this road, right? So we could pull it back as long as there's something.
So we can get in here and use it as the trail and for us to get in here.
Yeah.
Like I said, to manage trees and do work and to keep, if there's big trees, blocking, so because they go down and get stuck in the bridge.
Well,
Try to keep that.
in some areas we'd like to see it bumped over to get that buffer, because of course we're going to come at this from environmental principles. Water quality calls for a riparian buffer of at least 35 feet. We don't, I mean, that's a number. We'll try to get as much of it we can. So this again will take further analysis, but we can make some suggestions. I know up here at the bend up here, it could be on the other side of the trees.
But if you left that as is, then you all could still have access using that, and you could make an attractive trail which is going to pull the people away,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and we can, I don't see how it still won't be used if you leave it for, if you, but that doesn't mean we couldn't move it
Right.
over
Right.
and have trees to create the buffer. Again, all these final decisions are yours, and it's finances and it's grants and all that kind of stuff, and a prioritized list. But we'll make these suggestions based on the conservation principles. So do we have any and Nick will be important too as an advisor for some of the stuff. We talked about weirs in here, but mostly instead of the water coming down here, funneling it into there. And then, so, okay, I think we can move up now to the bridge area. Any other comments in here? Well, of course we can comment about the invasive species, and this will be another thing. This is all honeysuckle shrub at the same time. It is holding the soil, so we have these pushing and pull things, improving the wildlife habitat, which we did see a lot come up in the survey, and most of the walkers are interested in the passive recreation. So that'll be, again, just suggestions. Normally when you have a lot of invasive species in a big area, you don't try to do everything at once. You might be picking away and further subdividing. So we're going to divide this plan into zones and make suggestions by zone. One will be riparian area, and then there should be sub-zones within that, which we can help you with for getting it into a small enough unit that you can manage instead of trying to think of everything.
Mapped on the, or marked on the map.
Yep. So, yeah.
Regarding the more stable soil,
Yeah.
how would you manage that?
Well, there's multiple techniques. One is you cut them off and treat them so they don't come back. You can't pull them out or the bank will disappear. And then you plant a tree near it till those roots rot the next tree, but you don't try to do everything at once, as I said. So
Yeah,
that's,
there are other stream restoration techniques, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of machine, but it's basically a bunch of like willow sprouts and roots wrapped up in cloth that you sort of hammer into the bank to just keep that stable, and then eventually those plants will grow and become the replacement. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but as Larry said, you don't just yank them out. You have to make sure that that bank is maintained as a stable bank as you're restoring it, and you wouldn't want to do like everything at once. You'd want to take it in little pieces.
yeah, and if there are some areas that the banks are degraded, and that would be a case where they could be ripped out and then some other feature could be put in. There's some excellent features in the area on the other side of the road here, put in years ago by Trout Unlimited, I assume, with cross veins again and
That was part of
stabilization.
the 222 highway project, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, some of them are very good to stabilize the banks, and also, so there could be some places where they could be vegetatively removed if at the same time the bank was going to be reworked. Okay? That's, at least you don't let them go to seed, but these are really difficult issues.
Yeah, especially on such a big area.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's why what we do is we just keep bringing it down into the unit.
Yeah.
So we may only have 4 or 5 zones that we're talking about, but you know, there's 2 or 3 sub areas.
I've seen some people say burning.
Yeah, I don't see how everybody.
Yeah.
This is one of the places where we thought we could get the trail straight, you know, over there to leave this off. And then what we do in spots like that, if people like to go there, then you have an area that's mowed to specific spots instead of, you know, having the, well, you have it nice and vegetated really, but this could still be maintained. People like to go there. If the trail is over here, they can still get there. And that would give you the buffer, because this is a big flood area, and you can see the trail's already been moved once when it is wet. So we ended up now with 2. Well, let's keep moving. It's a long way to go. Oh. Oh. Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know how else you
Well,
do
you
it
get
without
the
coming through
football
with the
tarp,
tractor.
you get the baseball tarp, and you cover it. But my guess is those weeds could live dormant.
For years. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't see how you do it.
No. No, well, and approach we take is if you're not mowing, this is a victory all the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a victory.
Yeah.
Sweating in this heat.
Yeah.
No.
Here is a nice space where more trees could be planted to create the buffer in this area here. But the trail could, well, that'll take a lot more thinking about rerouting and more engineering really involved. But these will be little things where you can pick away at these things where you already have the space. More native trees could be planted to get the shade is always going to be something that we're interested in for the trout stream and keeping the water cool and the oxygen levels up.
Larry, is what I call grapevine, I don't know if it is grapevine like there, is that considered invasive or not?
Well, you have a lot of bittersweet out here, and we were just talking about this is a big problem.
Isn't this porcelain berry?
Well, porcelain berry, and then there's bittersweet.
Yeah.
And there's the grapes. Usually, if they're ripping the trees down, we try to not have the trees pulled down by the vine.
I know we used to try to cut the vines at the base, you know, once every 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
if they were eating the
Well,
tree.
there's a lot of issues here, and some of these things, one of the things that'll be in the report will be integrated weed management, which is learning about your weed, and then there's different techniques. Some things, unfortunately, when things are left go for a long time, there might be some chemical means that are involved, like painting stumps, which is I'm not talking about spraying or anything like that, but there are some extremely difficult invasive species here that have been entrenched for decades and decades, and they're not going to disappear because we want them to. And mowing is going to enhance some of them. It's going to be able to control some, but integrated weed management will be what's the life cycle of the plant, what have been ways that have been successfully been used. This is a national issue, a worldwide issue, but a national issue. And so we're going to have some really nice handouts for you from the DCNR website about the invasive species that we're seeing and the control techniques. And again, a lot of this is prioritization.
That's what I'm wondering, if you're gonna give us some prioritization based on either, what we can hope to do, and perhaps on, which areas of the park might be most still worth protecting as best we can.
Okay, let's keep going. Well, bad stop in the sun. Poor choice by me.
When you see
So that stuff that grows on trees is not Boston ivy? I thought it was.
Well, I don't see
no?
any ivy. There's some poison ivy, but the native species, well, a lot of it is, picking your battle.
Right.
And which, this is just pointing out the sediment that moves, that's moving down through here, and that's really what your MS4 gangway. So this will be something we're going to try to prevent, or make sure it's in an area that it could be taken up. So instead of it moving down and into the stream, which is right over there. Yeah, this is all honeysuckle, but it's doing a function That's when you run into, that's when you run into something.
Well, it
Yeah,
smells
another
good
trouble.
in spring.
Yeah. It's already doing something. I usually say if you don't have something better to change it. Oh, okay, hazard trees. Oh, well, they're probably
Shade.
talking about stormwater. This would be hazard trees, so that's going to also be mentioned in your plan, and that's what Dwayne was getting at, the need to be able to get to these areas. But we'll see what we can come up with.
Oh yeah, it is. That's the line.
You got poison ivy using that dead tree as a, oh, it's an old electric, oh, it is electric.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Well, that would be your med ed. Yeah, see, here's one of the areas where the water's taken over, and there's about 3 of them where it collects in here. The idea would be taking it down the chute so it can be recharged instead of this sediment being put into the stream. The sedimentation being a pretty big issue for smothering the substrate. Yeah, well, you have a lot of nice trees here. Go. Oh, this is not the bridge.
Private
It's
property.
the next one. Yeah, oh God. Beautiful redwoods.
So Lucy, it gets mushy up there. It gets mushy up there.
Yeah.
By the picnic table and then down here where it's considered pipes.
Yeah, this trail is blocking the stormwater and pushing it here, so there would have to be some kind of, you know, swale or something, or culverts to take it over. Let's come over to the bridge though. But see, it's all being pushed. This was the thinking years ago, is to just get rid of it and dump it back in the stream. Today, we want to get it into the ground and not impact the stream. Okay. Good, people catch up. Okay, here's, we're now up to number 5. And take note of that stormwater pipe, because we're going to talk about stormwater right up above here with 3. But, so there's some practical things that we need to talk about, and one is your bridge needs to be stabilized because of the stormwater. And so a lot of it, when you're in these tight situations, I don't think there's too many other solutions than getting yourself some big enough rocks so it doesn't undercut your... But again, that is... we'll call it out in the plan, but it's a permitted activity and something you would be working with your engineer on. So let's go up here to talk about the stormwater that does come in here, because what that does is smash into this bank and then create a hydraulic dam, which then pushes the water to come out some other place. So if we recharge what's coming in up here a little bit better, we will have less of an impact on the stream and the flooding. So this is connected to the flooding that's over here, because it can back up.
What's the minimum amount of rainfall you need to have that effect?
What's that? Oh, I don't know. I
mean,
haven't
doubt
been
that
here in this.
I presume that a gentle rain is not going to do
Oh,
that.
no,
You're going to need something heavy.
No, yeah. And you can see it's even washing around. So the bridge has limited the capacity of the stream, and it can't get out into the floodplain. So we're going to be trying to get floodplain connection. It seems like that seems counterintuitive, but we are trying to get the water to come up here when you get those monster storms, but also at the same time stabilize your existing infrastructure. And with some detention up here, we will be able to limit the amount that comes into here.
Did that problem cause that bridge up there to wash out?
No, that's kind of wide open up there. That was just a deterioration of the footings and a safety issue more than anything. And this will get to that point. At
Oh
some
yeah,
point,
yeah. So some of these things are just practical and practical concerns, but again, tied to the larger issues. So the bigger issues are going to be the stormwater, which we'll get to up there. So let's go up. So again,
One more question.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. While we're here at Metasequoias, this is a very unique group of trees that we have. They're precious in a sense.
Yeah.
Are you including any recommendations on how to care for them?
Well, they're doing pretty good on their own and last a long time. Well, keep the vines off them. These do like water, so they're not adverse to the current conditions. So we're not going to really be changing anything. Really, the big thing will be to get the water to go under this dam, this trail that's acting like a dam, and over into the middle instead of pouring it back into the stream, which is creating you more headaches. So there have to be something on farms. We just put a big opening that the water can get through, so it's like this, so it's not a big deal for traveling by foot or on bicycles. The culverts, of course, can get blocked up, so I think the swale making that trail go down, and it would have to be cement, of course, so it doesn't wash away if you're going to put all the stormwater. But again, engineering advice and a lot more studying.
Just an interesting story about these. 10, 15 years ago, there was a movie, I think it was called something Airbenders. It was M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And somehow through communication, they heard about this set of trees, and they sent like a pre-producer guy out for like half a day, looking around. They wanted to use it in one scene in the movie because it looked kind of oriental, you know, and they never did. But they came out and really were looking at it. It was
The
interesting.
pagoda got like a reworking for including it in the movie.
Yeah.
But they're magnificent trees.
They are. Would you recommend cleaning out the greenery underneath?
No,
they don't?
that's fine too, because that's going to slow the water down and help it go in too. Unless it's pulling the tree down, I wouldn't be too worried, even though some of them are invasive species. There's so many here; those would be the least of our worries. No, the shade now is what's suppressing the growth of the. So out there, the vegetation is that tall, and under here, it can't get the light. So basically, the trees are serving as their own mulch by light suppression. Okay. Yeah. It might also involve going down the stream a little bit on both sides, because what happens is it gets dammed up here, then it builds up a real head of steam, and then it shoots out like a rocket and blasts these. Well, okay, let's make sure people can get by.
Oh yeah, I love it.
This is a nice, cool spot. So we're now at zone 1. We're at number 3. There's the circle up there on, what is that, High Road or? Yeah. So when we investigated this, when things got reworked, the system does not really function anymore. Where the grates are, the water doesn't go in the grates. There's also water coming from over at the ball fields over there, which we have a 17, which is a stormwater basin, which is pretty nice, but then it comes over into a system that does not lead the water to where you want to go. So all that stormwater could be collected in this area right here. It's already, this is nice, this is great the way it's being managed right now, but it could do more. Instead of more water going into that pipe, well, some is getting into the pipe, but a lot of it's just shooting down here. So this is arranged nicely. The trail's higher and not washing too much. And then those might be an invasive grass up there, miscanthus, but if things got reworked in here, that could be dealt with at the same time. But you got some nice milkweed and the guys aren't mowing. This is great. So we can walk up there and briefly look, but again, this would have to go through the engineering to say, well, how are we going to get the water into, or relocating the existing inlets. You can see the swale below the cherry trees up there at the top at the circle, and the grate it's not going in there, which is really okay. We want it to go into this area, so maybe, and then we'll see over here as well.
To summarize what you said, this is a theoretical problem, but not a big deal.
Well, I would say it's something. So we brought up the stormwater from environmental, but also you have MS4. This is something in your control that you could be doing, and this might just take some regrading. The system doesn't work, so I guess you could just say forget it, but then it would take some regrading to get the water in here. What you got to do is get that water from that whole athletic field into the system so it can get over here. And it's not arranged right now, is all I can say, but I would, so you know, when you're prioritizing, there's the low-hanging fruit, or the ones that take the least amount of money, or you can combine things in a grant to do a number of things instead of something really big like replacing a bridge, which we're not suggesting, or putting in a new parking area. All these things are going to be higher. Okay, so we're going to head up here.
Another picture.
And one thing before we go is, since 17 is not on your property, we're going to bring this up when we get over to the Highlands, is that you have neighbors, that you're all part of one system really, and I'm sure you have a good relationship with the school district now, but that's something, there's stormwater on their property that's coming to you, and so working together, I think there are things pretty good, but it could be more naturalized and less mowed. When you mow in a basin, it packs the basin, there's let the water in. So again, a lot of this will be working with your neighbors on mutual points of interest. If you're trying to increase habitat, they could try to increase habitat in some of their areas that they don't have a field on.
And we did have calls with both the high school and the Highlands focus group calls, so they're aware of the project and they seem very supportive of it.
Yeah, but the high school won't even come up with $3,000 or $4,000 for a crosswalk, so don't look at any of the
They're
big
supportive.
expensive.
I didn't say they were going to pay for it.
Right. Lip service is cheap. Yes.
Right,
There can
exactly.
be grants that go together when you're working. Sometimes there's grants that schools are easier to get. Sometimes there's grants that you guys can get yourselves. And then, of course, the more people that are in an application, the more partners, the more chances you are increased. And when you have a plan that calls it out, that increases your chances. But many of these things are not going to be snapped overnight. And okay. They change every so many years.
Well, as Jen just said, there's a new superintendent.
Oh.
She's come up through the
Yeah,
system.
Oh,
so
well,
yeah.
She's new, but
She's been here.
Yeah, well, that could be good or that could be bad. It all
Right.
depends how entrenched in the system.
We'll find out.
but
The system that wasn't as communicative as you hoped.
the less money anybody has to spend, the more grants we get,
Oh, yeah.
the more quantity people are going to get. And Lucy will make sure that we get the Highlands coverage.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of things when we get over there that we could be working together on. Yeah, those are not native fountain grasses. I really haven't seen them escaping much, but at the same time, this would make a perfect series of small basins that could still be mowed. There's thistles back there. I mean,
Why would you want to mow them?
what's that?
Why would you want to mow them?
Well, the thistles, well, because you might end up owning them. At the same time, they have pollinator value, but that's another tough one.
Well, it's staff time, and they don't really stretch
Oh,
thin.
but it'd be like every week.
Yeah,
Like half a year.
Being like 2 weeks ago, instead of letting these go to flat, instead of letting
Probably like
That's much different.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
instead of letting these go to seed. Yeah. they're letting you go to seed. You mow them down, and it could be that. Well, I'm only going to mow the purple side. You know,
Yeah.
before they go to seed, just mow them.
The miscanthus is one of those that I think is still at an economical. And it's like there's a couple in the meadow, but not that many.
Yeah. Well, we've seen places where they.
Yeah,
are
no,
starting
but
to.
like I feel like it's at a point where they could be.
Okay,
dealt
well
with.
they already did better on this. This is that basin on the school, and that water comes over. So last year, half of that was mowed, but just introducing them to some of the materials that we provide you about proper maintenance of these type of areas goes a long way. So this is really great. It increases your habitat and gets the storm water in. But as it comes over, see that box sticking up there? That couldn't accept stormwater if it wanted to, based on the height it is. So that there, with some mild reworking, this could be the basin, and then up here, we don't need to walk over there, but the inlet is sitting up so high that no water from this area could get in. But it looks like this is a good idea. They put a roll here so that it goes down there to somebody else. Probably is supposed to go into that box there, that inlet.
I'm sure it was washing out the trail.
Yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move. But then where does it go next? Looks like it's going to turn in there somewhere. But again, this is just a suggestion for something you could do for your MS4.
And those nest boxes they put up there years ago are not cared for, and they are house sparrow factories.
Oh my
And
God.
the house sparrows have been moving into more and more boxes in the park, and I don't know who to
Well, the
talk to about that.
opening up the lines of communication so that if you did have somebody that was nice enough to maintain the boxes in the park, they could be allowed to go over and get those cleaned out or rework. But this is pretty good.
Yep.
Okay.
I think they leave the fence open for the deer.
What's that?
I think the fence is open for the deer. A lot of times the deer will hop the fence.
No kidding. That's what they leave the fence open for.
Sometimes they can't, I'm guessing, because sometimes they can't figure out how to get out. It's so weird. It's beautiful watching the deer.
Oh yeah, they can jump.
Yeah, doing a design, install, maintenance. Yeah, pretty essentially all residential. I did an artist residency with photographers.
I think using QR code skews
That kind of thing, but yeah. Yeah, just business.
don't use cell phones for that.
No.
Yeah, well, the grasses take over. This becomes, well, we're going to have stuff in the plan. If you ever thought about doing a little conversion, again, you're going to try it big, but it's chemical or, it's chemical or it's mechanical, and then you run into the issues of the time and not giving the workers the
Right.
So,
Right.
what do you pick? What do you pick as your priority?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is the will of the county. There's so many factors.
Yes.
We're going to throw it out there, and then these are decisions for the committee to try to move, and workers, or public works guys to say, oh, we don't really like that.
Are there any
That was-
recommendations for what to use on these trails? Like
these
this
are
is
pretty
some
good.
asphalt.
These might be those, well, this is
This is
the millings.
yeah.
This is probably
That's why you found
number
that
2.
piece of asphalt.
Yeah, they do use the millings, which isn't a bad idea, but
It's not.
well, they got
This
piles
has
of them.
tar. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the main thing is water bars and stuff. Yeah, this, so, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I don't see any, you know, it's not all thistle or anything.
No, no,
But I know that I saw.
But could it be better? Well, yeah, but as I said to Nate, not mowing is a victory. What do we got? Right up there, in the trail. There's the deer.
Uh-huh.
In the parking lot. On the trails. So they can look and see.
It's shade here or shade there, so where do you want to stop?
I want to stop up here so we can see this. Yeah, gotta be shade. Gotta be shade.
Gotta be shade.
I'm gonna go down there. But...
Just had a shower.
He's not in a rush.
Your pet deer are so used to you out here. It's unbelievable. That was not
I'll just scoot over here.
Do they eat out of anybody's hands? Does anybody have one? Okay. I bet they can come right up to you. Well, we stopped here. I think the way it's being managed, this is great. The meadows, not mowing, is a victory in itself. We'll have some other thoughts if you ever felt like you wanted to build up the diversity, but like I said, not mowing, this is great. Keeps the soil in place, wildlife habitat. Okay, there's going to be a few places for a trail where the stormwater got to get off before it gets here, so there might be some calls for water bars occasionally, but that's not a big deal. But here, there could be a couple places where this water got off instead of all ending up right at this spot. And I think we could also talk about zone 3, which is number 6. So we have these zone numbers because that's the way the plan will be outlined. So we just generally threw them into zone 3 is the woodland, and we have it broken into your spruce and evergreen plantations and this deciduous woodland here. So there'll be a bunch of recommendations. This is pretty tough. It's been left really go for a long time. There's some hazard, some dead ash and hazard in there, and so there'll be some recommendations about the invasive control and what we would do. This would be more like having a subcomponent of the plan, like a forest management plan, but having done these on some of our preserves and on other properties and other preserves that we don't own, there's a forestry mower that can mow down. You can't even get in there to deal with the hazard trees or the invasives. There's a fair amount of ailanthus in here, but given the amount of time, I mean, these honeysuckles are 30 years old, some of them are probably 60 years old, is chopping it down, mowing it down, and then starting to, again, make subzones, areas that you, instead of saying, oh my God, that's so big, we're never gonna be able to do anything there, you just say, we're gonna break this into sub areas and attack it a little bit at a time. But I really feel the forestry mower to get so you can get in there. You can't, it's impossible to even get there, to tell you the truth.
I would say this wooded area right here has so much potential, but it is the worst with honeysuckle and ailanthus.
Yeah, it's totally invaded.
It's a mess.
It's not, this isn't any, this is everywhere. This isn't anything particular to here. Right. Things get abandoned. It probably was in trees or farming at one time. I think we'll have a historic map to show you the historic land use. So it was highly disturbed, and therefore with some compacted soils and So this is what comes back in, and you let it go for a number of years, and it's not going to be like, but getting so you can get in there. But the point here would be, and then of course there's slopes, so there's a whole lot of factors here, and you have some decent trees as well, which don't need to be, but there is the tree of heaven right above our heads. That would be, you have some good walnuts, which would be the ones that would come in themselves. So we'll have, again, recommendations, but some of these might be getting another plan, getting the engineering plan for the stormwater stuff, getting a forest plan, a subset that would, again, just like we're doing, break it out into subunits based on soil types or slopes.
But this area is also really impacted by deer browse, as we've seen. So part of the recommendation would be anything you're newly planting is to deer fence, and even maybe to deer fence a piece that is not being restored so that we can see what might regenerate. And I think people really don't have any idea what impact the deer really do have on forest regeneration. So having a deer fence really is an educational tool, so people can see, okay, on this side of the line, there's no understory, it's full of microcegium, and on that side of the line, we're actually getting native shrub regeneration and maybe some spring ephemerals and things that nobody's seen for years. So it's, education is really an important part of the plan, as well as the physical recommendations.
Yeah, we have a grant in right now for that, for demonstration. So there's a spot where it's going to be cleared out and planted, and then there's a spot where it's going to be, and these don't have to be huge areas. And then there was even the way, maybe a little further out would be goats fenced in if you don't like the mechanical method.
If you fenced in an area without much preparation, just as a test site, do you do any pre-work, like trying to open up the understory a little bit?
Well, the half that would be, we have to intervene because it's like this. And then after it's clear that this is what you get by doing nothing, basically, is the invasives, and this is what we need to do if we want to have trees down the road, because these aren't going to live forever. And that's Douglas fir, which I'm really surprised even alive now. Most of those kick off. They're not a long-lived tree, and they're not from here, so they don't like our summer humidity. Who doesn't? So there'll be true going down here. We'll always be looking for water bars, and these are something you guys, I see the old water bars. Some just need to be refreshed, especially along Cambridge there. And then when we get down there, we're going to see a place again to do some more stormwater, because it's just charging down the trail along Cambridge. Let's head on down here. So from the map you can see, we're going to turn right. From the map you can see that this is part of Zone 1, this field. So all the grassland or upland meadows are going to be in one zone, and then the riparian areas will be in the
I'm very good at falling. I'm perfect with your.
Oh yeah, we broke that. We broke the riparian into 3 areas. We'll, when we swing back around.
Don't these dead ones need to be cleaned out of here, or they're just good?
No, well, no. We'll even have something in the plan about the value of dead wood.
Right.
The rotting of the wood is what builds your soil back up, and even some vertical ones. We had some last year where we just cut them off 10 feet high, so that we would have a woodpecker space for 10 feet.
Gotcha. Okay.
But wow, the honeysuckle is unbelievable. Oh, this is where health is. Yeah, this is.
Manual, that first time.
Oh no. First the machine.
25 years before we get.
Well, in
It is. I don't know that I've ever seen anywhere that I've
Oh no, it's just about anywhere. Anywhere that's been let go. These are big though. And then their move is, they're the first thing that comes out in the spring, the leaves, and then they're the last. So nothing else can get light on the floor.
It's hard to deal with by hand because it goes up and up.
Oh yeah.
You try to get some water on it.
Oh, it's brutal.
It is.
But that's
The
where.
only thing would be, I'm glad it doesn't have corn to it.
Uh-huh.
The only thing would make it
Yeah,
worse.
it could be olive.
Yeah.
It could be olive. Because this is a place where there should be a crosswalk. And anywhere, somewhere along here, something's not working. Just wanted to point out too, there could be a crosswalk here to get more
We've talked
people.
about that. That is not.
What's that?
So we've talked about that.
Great, great to get your folks who, a lot of who are walking over here. But we're gonna see a bunch of stormwater stuff, and feel free to chime in, Nick. But that's going to be a component of the plan: is work with your MS4 Wyomissing coalition for your stormwater.
The crosswalk is what the
Municipal storms.
Oh.
So we are part of it.
Well, that's where when you open up the communication, say, can we work on a
Wyomissing
grant together
sediment,
for a few
Copenhagen
things
is polluted.
that could
And at least
enhance the park, and you know,
together,
we're basically
we
one
tackle
unit.
projects
And you
together.
can put a fence up if you want.
just a big toboggan.
Yeah.
All we want to do is get their families, children here to watch their kids play.
Creek walkers, we literally get in the creek, walk from one section to the other to look at all the outfall documents.
Oh, it's fine.
Usually July or August, and we wait till it doesn't rain in a bunch of days.
Yeah. Yeah, let me know.
I can give you a heads up.
We walk up
Sure you
here.
help me in the
Above where the curve is.
Not really, but he's like, it's not that
It's up
deep."
further.
It's up to my neck, and there's
I think I see an inlet right up here. Oh, that may be.
Oh, over there. Yeah, well, let's keep going up. Of course, again, the trails, and we're still in this zone 3, the forest zone. So it's pretty much the same stuff. Here you have some more walnuts, which are great. But again, just like before, there'll be recommendations for probably a plan and subzones and grants in the future for installing it. But there are programs for urban forestry, and so there's a community forest program with the USDA that recognizes the importance of these spots, and so there are opportunities more than ever for urban, what might be called urban forestry. So, well, let's keep heading up.
we've actually gotten.
Ah, here it is. Well, here we were just talking about making sure the water all gets in there as it comes charging down the hill with some kind of something that directs it more into the box. That would help your. This is holding up pretty good, but I think in the where you can see there's water getting. It's, I would call it mildly eroded but vegetated currently. trouble is, where you can't go with it anywhere. You can't go anywhere with it. So it's all charging down here and leading to these eroded spots. Yeah, well, I don't even know if it could be built up, to not like make it a dam. You can't get rid of it. There's something to break it up because it's moving down. It's moving down and it's washing out.
Will you guys give me the recommendations about deer not doing anything? It stinks from knowing, but
It'll be in there.
Survey.
Let's see what comes out of this. Never done it like this. Video.
Like one of those YouTube videos going like
No, actually, this has amazing stability control, even horizontal, so I can tilt it like this. It still keeps horizontal. Yes, it's amazing. Yeah, because it's designed for action.
What do they cost?
Oh, $2.99.
That's all.
Yeah.
And nephew years ago put GoPro on it. So doing a sledding. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's cool to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
That's why they're there, and that's why they make them, high stability control.
I don't know how true that is.
50 or 50?
I heard 50.
So for this works, we're,
let's
you know,
go
I
in
don't-
the. Well, we could go here.
And
Or we could go over there.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and like with to do the stream bank restoration and all that.
that's it.
Everything would have to be deer fenced and planted.
Yeah.
Yep. It's gone.
Yeah. Or else you do the shelter, but the demonstrations might be something that then say, oh my gosh, this is, now let's expand.
Yeah,
Now that we know,
gets the
now that
support.
we know,
Yeah.
now that we understand that we really have a pretty degraded forest here, that we need to take more responsibility for our forest. I'm talking about the community. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
the borough. I'm talking about the community.
I think that's a new focus of Park and Shade Commission, is to try and get education out. It's been kind of low for a while, right? We've got some new members that want to educate. So that's
Well, this might be a good segue
Yeah.
into one of
exactly.
our recommendations is going to be for a nature center or an education center. We were proposing the Goodman Barn as a nice location for that, so that you could have, environmental education programs, birding walks, all kind of centrally located camps, summer camps.
I guess the question is, the borough guys need to park up there. They need to park equipment and
Right.
to
Yeah, I
encourage
can- I
people
can-
to drive up during the
We can throw this
day
out also.
is going to make it much more difficult for them.
The Hewitt houses, we kind of, that would be more perfect.
That'd be better.
Yeah,
Well,
we have it on. We have it on
We
there
did
as one
talk
of the
about
old.
that, but to get to that, you have to drive all the way through the park, and then it's not really an accessible building as much as the Goodman Barn would be. So that's why we didn't.
Well, we do
suggest
have.
that.
We do have on your map. Not to jump us too far ahead, but number 13. If we're going to be talking to the Highlands, we're suggesting in number 13 that you talk to them and be able to get to your park barn there, so you don't have to drive up Old Wyomissing Road to interface with the people that are walking. Because there's a short distance.
They need land development approval.
Wait, what do you mean exactly?
What I mean is, that distance right there is pretty short.
So, okay, so Ansong,
Yeah,
where all these homeowners
yeah.
are like this close together,
Well, maybe there's a space and maybe there isn't.
thinking,
Yeah,
and then, of course, I'm sure you know, all the Highlands roads are private roads
yeah,
maintained by,
yeah. Well, again, suggestions, the thinking being that
yeah.
Old Wyomissing Road is a long way, and I really wouldn't want to be encouraging anybody to use that, and
Right.
I would say it
Right.
your experience for the walkers, which is the main uses. Anyway, these are just
If I
things
could
we throw
just
out.
add
You
one
guys
thing
can
with that.
wrestle with it.
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah.
going to be an event once a month, I don't think traffic's a concern.
Uh-huh.
If it was every day,
Yeah.
but if it's an occasional event,
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Okay.
Now, did you see the welcoming signs the Highlands put up at the parking lot up here?
No. Well, you.
Not very welcoming.
No.
Well, you need
No,
to.
no,
they-
no. This is our property. Screw you is basically
Yeah.
the message. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's very nice.
Well, then you'll have to put
Yeah,
a gate
it's
up
part of
along
their
that
the
gate
marketing
there.
campaign.
No, I think working. I'm just for working with the neighbors, trying to work out mutual things. Because when we get up there, we'll have a few other things to talk about. Here, there's plenty to talk about. Well, one of the interesting things here is that people park there. It looks like it's for Western Berks, but anyway, I don't know if that's allowed or not. But here, it's more of the stormwater. So we're going to see places where, in these low areas, there could be stormwater detention. To get it off of the road, you have some nice low spots here. We would also be recommending to discontinue. There's some pretty heavy erosion coming down through the spruce there that you already got plenty of connections over, that be closed off, and that there be, the ruts be filled in so that the erosion doesn't continue. But this would be another really good stormwater area to recharge everything that's coming down the hill. There's some other areas up there where it's pretty easy to get it off. But now this is where we break this down into Zone 3B, because the evergreens will be thought of differently than the deciduous that has been over invaded, whereas that is pretty stable. The trees are pretty young. I'm sure there's some occasional mortality because of the spacing, but the light on the floor is the enemy, and so we would be recommending cutting any of that stuff down unless it's dead, because when the light gets down there, that's when the tree of heaven comes up, and the honeysuckle and all the seeds that the birds drop, all the seeds that the birds dropped in there. So stormwater mostly in this area, and that would be, I think we're somewhere in the vicinity of number 3 there. But there could be a series of them up here, and then, well, you guys can worry about, I don't know if you want people to be parking there or not, but that's really not for me.
Good luck preventing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Any more than we can
yeah.
prevent it by down by that.
Yeah,
line.
I agree. A couple people, it's no big deal, unless Western Berks wants to get to their facilities and then.
That's a conifer forest and lots of dry needles on the floor. And a lightning storm comes up after a big rain or something like that, or without a big rain. Are there any fire prevention methods that you can suggest?
Well, I don't really have any for there. Well, there are times of danger. I think the biggest forest fire issues are deciduous leaves in the spring before the new vegetation comes out. So, of course, there's people that do crazy stuff, but we don't really have much recommendation for in there other than maintain the canopy, and if you have a hazard tree, to take care of it. When we get over there, we will talk about expanding of a long area of mowing along the highlands where the conifers could be expanded, or other deciduous trees, and this might be a place to work with them because they got a big area that's just being mowed. And I know that the residents like trees, but the administration may have a slightly different opinion.
Jim, have you ever had a fire in there?
No.
Is there, well, it doesn't, you know.
No, but
yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you know, if there
It
had
is
been
the
100
climate's
fires, that would be a different problem than if there'd been 0.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a dry time. There are potential problems, at any time with people.
I would assume it'd be over here because there's a lot of dead fuel on
Yeah,
the floor,
yeah.
not here.
I could say even going into the potential fireworks this week, like Ethan, John, and I have been talking about that. We're going to come out tomorrow and do a match test, plus a match test Friday, plus a match test Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He drove through, Ethan, our fire chief, drove through this whole area yesterday, and it's not ideal, but if we get one instance of rain between now and next week, there's a decent chance he's not going to have a concern it is, there are eyes on it more frequently than
Good in there.
Oh, well, fire is a
Let's have a
technique.
controlled burn.
Fire is an excellent technique. And on Neversink, which we own, even though we don't like people setting fires, it results in a benefit to the environment, and then it precludes the chemical burning or treatments. But that takes like an act of God to be able to get that to happen. But this is unusual this year. It's a good point. It's unusual that we haven't had any rain for a whole month. So, but again, I think you'll see most of the fire warning is in March, believe it or not, when the leaves are dry and haven't been subject to forces of decomposition by the warmer temperatures. Okay, here we go.
Every couple of years, you see evidence of some camping.
How long do you think this is going to take? I have a limited battery.
Yeah. Well, we're what, halfway?
Holy moly.
So other people will be cutting out and they'll have to just be hand notes by somebody else, right? Yeah, see, this is a good spot for detention.
What I could have done is to shut it down when we want.
Ah, yeah. Is a good one? Yeah. Is a good one, but now it's built up over time. We need to knock the burn, knock that edge off. So we're just stopping here. Again, the guys are on the ball. This is excellent. Some things need a little more maintenance to push it over there. That side's building up now and the water's going around a bit. So, but this would be an excellent stormwater area recharge down into here. So the water's going around. This just needs to get knocked over. But the idea is right. They got the right material that doesn't move, and you got a spot that's going to take it so that it doesn't build up. It's going around and heading all the way down. Okay. Not the right idea. Just need a little more help to get it over in here, but so it doesn't come down the lane here. Okay, we wanted to get over to that parking area. Is this this is the shortest? I see it's in the sun. That shade looked pretty attractive.
But you can go through the trees on the pier.
Made it seats again? Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's
new.
Yeah. Well, they have their job is to make the seats.
Right.
And they're going to do everything they can within their power to do it. And then there's the seat bank, which for plants like that, we're going to be pretty significant in length of time. So, a lot of it, it's a little extra work, but paying attention to it is good. And then the integrated weed management is going to talk about mowing, chemical, culture, goats, everything. But yes, yep. Good move. Yeah, that one I don't see as, it's not like a rhizomatous plant like Canada thistle. And I kind of like Canada thistle for the pollinating, but then it's like the goldenrod, it moves through and eventually that's and then it's blowing the seeds into the other areas as well. So, some things, the porcelain bear, oh yeah. Okay, Of course, it's great, the mowing regimes in the other places, but we're always looking for places not have to mow. So this would be one of them. And so on your map, we have 15, 3, we have 3 stormwater. So right now, the Highlands is giving you, you have stormwater issues coming from them into your parking area. And since there was concerns about the amount of parking, this is really the only place we feel you have the potential for increased parking, and that could be combined with collecting the stormwater they're giving you, getting it under the lot, and then getting it down here, and trees or meadow, but trees would be great as well. And then the other thing was, there was the talk about the exercise.
That got ixnayed by the infrastructure committee.
Oh, okay, so that's not anymore?
No.
Okay, then I don't have to go into my spiel about
Nope.
this is a natural area. We're trying for a natural area, and we really don't want it here. Put it over at the Stone House with the other courts.
So we don't have to think
So-
about any exercises at all.
No.
Okay.
Can I throw in an idea for this area?
Sure.
You know, everybody has a lot of takes on dogs in the park and then being off leash, and I'm not pro off leash dog, but I would, you know, people let the dog off leash, I think, because they want it to exercise, and I think that this would be a great spot for a mini dog park, like what they put in Ephrata, like a fenced in area where you can say, hey, if you have your dog off leash, you need to take it to the dog park versus just put it on a leash, you know. Ephrata just put one in like 2 years ago. It's super successful. It's like an area for big dogs, an area for small dogs. It's just, you know, gets mulched once a year. There's nothing in it. And I think that would go a long way to solving that tension
Some of
between.
us suggested that about 20 years ago.
Well,
And no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
Trendy
no.
again.
And we were told that because of deed restrictions and because only passive exercise is permitted by deed, that was not possible. The people who told us were people who cross-country ski here. So there's a little bit of skepticism about whether that was the real reason or whether it was an excuse. But that's what we were told.
Well, my suggestion would be to think about it over there across from the old mill, where it's being disturbed highly, and put
on that side
it
of the
up,
road.
put it over
Yeah.
there, because
That'd
this
be a
is
good
a storm. The stormwater's coming down,
Yeah.
and of
yeah.
course, dogs. There's the dog waste.
But there's no reason you couldn't do both. I mean, you can, maybe the dog park is more closer to the trees, and then there's still a bunch of stormwater treatment.
Well, and that's
Depends
nice
on
that
whether
it's
the
naturally
deed-
shaded here.
Right.
It depends on whether there really is a deed restriction.
Yeah.
If there's
Well,
a deed
you'll-
restriction, there's a deed restriction.
Right, if there's a deed restriction, there is.
There are
This
deed
isn't even our
restrictions for
property, this is Highland's property.
It's not your property.
don't think
I
it is.
thought it.
Looks like it.
This is your property.
Comes down.
Yeah, this is your property.
There
So
is a deed restriction
if
for
you-
passive recreation.
if you-
That's passive recreation. Because I just said to Jim.
Masano Bradley gave the opinion. I think they were told what their opinion should
Oh,
be
I'm
personally,
sure.
but
So, because I said to Jim, didn't there
So is
used
this
to
ours
be
or not?
yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
A dog park. I thought
So-
in here
So who
somewhere,
mows
but
it?
not an official
Highlands?
one.
We've got a trade-off.
On the other
Yeah.
side of the meadow, there
Well,
was like
this
an
is
open
another
area that if you wanted your dog
thing.
off
We
leash,
have
that's
things
what-
we
But
can
not gated. But it's
work
not
on
gated.
together.
That wasn't
You're
no.
giving
Yeah,
us
and I
this
think that's like the
stormwater,
thing
and now
that-
we're going to
Yeah.
detain it, and we're not going to
Yeah.
let it ruin our
That'd be
parking
amazing.
lot. So
If
you
you
are
haven't
going
been
to
to
think
that,
about parking expansion,
They
it
just
could be
took
here.
a little bit of a
You
view.
could catch the stormwater above, get it down below. If you ended up with a dog park here, so be it. I'd look at the other area myself, but then it can be a meadow. After you get beyond the lot, it can be a meadow, or there can be more trees to block the noise. And there, look at how green the grass is down there. All the water is ending up over in that corner. So, and it's naturally a basin here. It might need a little build up over there by the spruce, but this way you could, again, more of that MS4, you could be talking to them because it's really their stormwater, and say, boy, there's a lot of things we could be doing together here along our park boundaries, and this would be one of them. And we like naturalized, even though you guys like, you know, mowing the hell out of things. So, okay. Okay.
A lot of people, you know, get to the park walking up this road.
Uh-huh.
And they walk in the road.
Uh-huh.
Or they bike in the road. And there's traffic zipping back and forth, including people that are, you know, looking around.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm surprised there hasn't been a, you know, accident there. And so I wondered if, you know, adding some sort of off-street walkway on the borough side might be considered. Just a thought.
Or that could be a good crosswalk area too.
Oh, that doesn't have a crosswalk there?
Does not.
Well, there ought to be one.
Careless one to
And
cross.
there's no, we don't have any
There's an ADA
sidewalk
ramp
or,
over
there.
or
I can see
gravel
it.
that goes down.
Or-
So there's no sidewalk on that side. When people come over here, they're walking on the grass, there's not. But, you know, Greg, I think you met with Lynn Sackman and talked about that.
Well, you could even take it up along there and bring them in bring them in this way.
Or just some kind
Bring
of
them in the backside.
traffic.
I'm talking about foot traffic. And then that would still leave this for your basin, but if you're...
And as Lucy was mentioning, some of the walkers wear black and they're walking in the dark. So it's
Well,
really,
even if it's just a,
I'm surprised
your
nobody's
trail
been hit.
surface, and then get them over to here.
yeah, my husband pulled over. And
You have a
basically
trail that starts right there. They could then, they
Boy, it was
wouldn't
hard to see
even
them.
have to
It might be
walk up there,
a healthy
and then
choice.
you can decide the
Or
amount
put
of parking
something where,
and
build,
build,
or something.
you know, build it out this way, take
It
the
just
pipe
makes
underneath,
it easy.
and then exit out here somewhere. And that would really, because that whole area up there, you're taking it in the lot.
Well, they have on their property,
has about-
I think,
Oh, okay.
with all their development, some pretty good large detention basins.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They recently with the new construction, they've had to make it right. But this area is coming down here. You can, I'm sure you guys know from the lot, the gravel moves. When there's a big storm, the pipe is not big enough underneath the driveway into the parking. Well, let's go up there. But this would be a drop box, which would put it into the same, which would put it into the pipe and take it down there. Same way with that pipe could be worked into the system too, so that you're not, well, you can't expand the parking unless you deal with the stormwater. And then you're going to be, creating, then you're going to be creating more hard surface, which will mean you will need the detention anyway down there. So it'll serve the double purpose of what they're giving you, which is mostly there, but I can see that it's moving probably just down here.
Does
It probably
anybody
comes along the
still
road.
use, or do they still recommend, as opposed to stone or asphalt, the blocks with the soil in the center? Or is that old school thinking?
Well, you can talk to Nick, but I haven't seen those grids.
Yeah.
Those grids with gravel.
Yeah.
Eventually it's
Has a lifespan.
compact. Yeah, and then this stuff starts working down, and then the plastic's sticking up, and then that's getting run down. So myself, anyway, the drop box. It looks like there was a berm there. Maybe that's the tree root kicking it up. But in any event,
Car's coming.
getting it all down there, including what's over there.
Here comes a car.
Yep. Oh, they're coming from every direction to get into the forest. You won't want to be in there today.
It's 5 after 10, just the time check.
Okay, well, I guess we're gonna head up to the park barn, and then that'll be it. We won't bother to go up the other way, but we can talk about what we see up here. So while we're here, we could, and we're in the shade. Anyhow,
Very stable.
what's that?
Very stable.
Yeah.
You left before this one, Jim.
Anyway,
No idea the
if,
history of that.
if you're going to
Probably
go with
Kevin
the
Wolf's
parking,
idea.
if you're going to go with the parking, you could be rethinking the stormwater on this side and up there, and you're increasing for recharge.
You have a lot of room
Oh, yeah.
downstream is one benefit. The other thing is, as it stands now, you have these semi-naturalized swales to filter, slow, all that good stuff. So
There's that
it's
one
just
guy
a
who is like mowing
the less you mess with it, the better from its existing conditions. But there's opportunities for improvement, and there are ways to tie the parking lot in that.
Yeah, this is cool. This side is cool. That side, if
with
the
that little
parking,
gravel trail too.
Yeah. Yep. That could be eliminated. The one that comes over and put it down at the road.
Like I said when we were out here the last time, the biggest thing was making sure
This
the
year
lot
we've had less
has
more
upgraded accessibility, which locks your grades in a little bit because you got to be as flat as possible and tie into trails as flat as possible.
Yeah, well, if
But
you
the
went
rest
that
of it,
way, if you went that way, you could maintain this grade without a whole lot. But storm. Okay.
Sometimes it's full at 6:30 in the morning.
Not bad at all. And I know they've been doing extra work on the poison hemlock. So, but this is when you get to selective invasive control. There's not going to be one prescription. There's not going to be any blanket. And really, I would say it's just fine for the most part. But keep thinking about. I know there were areas for the porcelain berry as well, but there repeated mowing will be the winner. You just say you're discontinuing the mowing, but again,
I'll go by.
more spruce or even deciduous, or working with them, because I know those folks over there, they have meetings there to talk about their plant activities and trees. So there are people that want more trees, and that would be Lucy's committee for the
We got
area
hundreds
environment.
of trees from the 10 million tree project last spring. So we have a whole tree nursery now with a few hundred more trees to be planted. Yes.
How do you think your residents feel if we said we're not mowing that anymore, and it's going to become like a field out there? I just find that with like the tennis court condominiums, the Wyomissing Meadows, when we start doing that, the residents don't want to look at that. They want to look at lawn, and it's a tough.
Well, that's when I tell them we have the weed ordinance waiver. We have the plan that says we're managing for natural habitat, and why don't you join the effort?
Yeah,
All I'm saying is the people that live in these
now
houses,
Doris Moore,
depending on who
she
they
would
are.
be all for it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
less mowing, the better. The Avers are down at the other end. I mean, there are homeowners here who would welcome that.
different.
And the committee that I'm on, we are holding a whole series of more educational programs for the residents about environmental stewardship and why we need
Maybe
less
we can
mowing.
rent your group to talk to the tennis court condominium people.
Speaking tour, Lucy, you can go on a speaking tour.
Get yourself an agent right now.
From one side of Wyoming to the other.
Or invite them to some of those same meetings.
Yeah.
Or you could even, in the future, you could even be holding public events for the park as a takeoff to having more people in their own yards adopting such practices, so everything is contributing. Well, look, he's got one here, kind of.
Yeah.
You know that he mowed here.
I have your email now. I can let you know sometime. You might go over every now and then and meet and stuff.
Whoops, excuse me.
Yeah, she's
One's 13. Oh,
she's been here.
no, forget that.
On the rocks. So drink it slowly and it'll be.
Her neighbor.
Is everybody here? Okay.
I can't think of his name, but I think she's on the environmental council.
You can look at a couple things at this spot. One of them was, well, number 13, we can mix off of there. But wanted to point out about 8 here, you have those failing fruit trees or crab apples, whatever they are there, is extending your spruce trees out so you don't have to look at the construction and the high rise into this area here. It would create a visual and a sound buffer, and it's just being mowed without.
The problem there, Larry, and I never dug in it, but from what I understand, there's 2 or 3 inches of topsoil on the ledge. There's no soil.
Oh, I see. Well, we could think about trees. We could think about trees for that can handle that kind of rough spot.
Bunch of Compton.
What if you would put spruce along the back and then we could put the cherry orchard back in it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's up to you guys, or well, you guys are the decision makers. We're always going to say plant native trees, but that doesn't mean you can't have. You could think about some native fruit tree that grows on really dry. That might be interesting. The other one for here is, as we're looking down at number 9. Yeah. Okay, there's the creek, and there's serious flooding issues down here at the bend. And that's not going to be changing anytime soon. There was an attempt to try to block the water, you know, and keep it from coming up, but it's coming up to the floodplain. So that is a service lane, and important for that reason, for the sewer line that's down there, and I think there's some electric poles. However, I'd say let them deal with that. You really shouldn't be putting any more of those screenings. It's all washing into the stream, a high degree of sediment, and that this trail that's already started here, this be the trail, and that there be a boardwalk through the wetland that goes right to the bridge. That would eliminate all the worries. That's going to wash out every time there's a heavy rainstorm, and if there needs to be maintenance, they have big enough equipment. It's not like they need a footpath, a nice manicured path to get in there, and then the people that are walking will have a combination of grass and boardwalk that will take them right to the bridge. That will eliminate the concerns about the flooding that's going to be happening there, and then you don't have to try to keep manipulating that area to prevent the flooding when there's no amount of money. Well, there's some amount of money, but it's not the amount you want to spend. Okay, so we're going to go across there, cross the bridge, and walk down along and back to the lot. Anybody who has time constraints, you just need to do what you need to do. You don't have to go in the creek. You plant the trees. The roots will eventually start holding those banks there a little bit better. And oh, there's some more knotweed. Oh, there's another place. Okay, in here. And then I like the way you guys do it. You would have it mowed, so you're always mowing a piece along the trail, so the stuff's not falling in on people, but then you start the trees a little bit back. But that's something too. And then, you know, there's the school. That's another thing we're recommending, is the school, like the clubs. I mean, they're looking for stuff like this. If you get a charismatic enough teacher who's really motivated, this is something that they can adopt, or some other, or like that basin over there on their sports field. Okay, and this is going to be another stretch down here where these banks are being undercut a bit. So, you know, there's permitting and then making the banks right, or a lot of times we just say plant the trees a little back from the bank, so that eventually, if the bank, this would be Mother Nature's great, we plant the tree there, and then things are going to be stable. But that's another spot to hold these banks where things are a bit confined here.
And just remember, the next bumper, this is where Mr. Stanko wants
The Ron Stanko Memorial Center.
I need to record him on that.
Otherwise, you would have heard from me.
You're getting close. Yeah, you're getting close, and there's really no other answer. Sometimes we have those barbs, you know, you put a little barb out there that kind of pushes the water a little bit and then collects sediment behind. So a couple of barbs, but that would be...
we did some work in the creek down off Cambridge Avenue and got a...
To the right of that rock.
I don't know how we asked if we could just throw rocks.
Oh.
Well, you can ask them, but
I don't see it.
there's